Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Taft City Council Successor Agency Joint Regularly Scheduled Meeting for Tuesday, January 21st, 2020. Please, everybody, silence your phones, put them on vibrate, whatever you got to do. Any writings or documents provided to a majority of the City Council regarding any item on this agenda are made available for public inspection in the lobby at Taft City Hall, 209 East Kern Street, Taft, California, during normal business hours. We're going to begin this evening's meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Councilman Whiting, and followed by the invocation of Greg Haslow of Cavalry Temple. If you will join us, please.
Ready to face the flag, salute, and pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Almighty God, tonight we thank you for the blessings that you've poured out upon our nation. We thank you for the recent rains of winter, for the resources both above and below ground, and the many jobs it provides for families across our valley. Tonight, we in our City Council meeting and in many small cities and towns across America are working together for our marvelous democracy, for a better future. May this meeting be a demonstration that good people can face difficulties together and arrive at reasoned conclusions that will lead to the betterment of all those that they serve. Tonight, I pray also you'd keep our law enforcement, fire personnel, first responders safe as they continue to serve our community. I pray you bring peace and safety to our streets and strength to our local economy. I ask all this in the name of my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, may we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Mayor Knorr.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Pryor.
Here.
Councilmember Evelyn.
Here.
And Councilmember Whiting.
Here.
And Councilmember Bryant is absent with notice.
All right. Thank you very much. Okay, first item on this evening's agenda is a study session, and we're going to be addressed by Richard Chapman of the Kern EDC, Economic Development Corporation. Richard, how do you do, sir?
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor Knorr and fellow council members. My name is Richard Chapman. I'm the president and CEO of the Kern Economic Development Corporation, and I'm happy to be here to give an update, talk about our partnership with the city and other community folks, and where are we headed, because I know it is a watershed moment in many ways. And so I will launch into my presentation. Our organization is a public-private partnership. Again, we have supporters such as City of Taft, Taft College, and all with the goal to create job opportunities for employment in Kern County. Upward mobility is key, and how do we work together, again, as a coalition to support the community. Most of you know this, but the other part of our goal is to groom ambassadors for the community. How do we sell what we have to offer in Kern County? It has a bounty of wealth and riches throughout the county. Obviously, we're top 5 in the country for oil. Used to be number 1. Various reasons behind that, but also we're 2 for ag, and have incredible innovation, logistics, tourism, aerospace, you name it. So here we put together a list of some of our top rankings, and so just a way of communicating the opportunities for our residents. Our organization, our fiscal year ended last June 30th, and so we're working to articulate the benefit of the partnership. And so we had a banner year. We had about 4,500 jobs total created through our projects, 180 million in wages, and about over 700 million in output. And again, it was a banner year. A lot of the stars aligned, and the projects luckily came to fruition. So we were excited by that. And some of these you can see are primarily logistics. And I know, looking at some of the data in City of Taft, that looks like one of the fastest growing industry sectors. And so you can see we had the Amazon project, which is actually one of 4 like it in the country. It's not a typical fulfillment center. It's 3 stories are automated, And so that's going to be, I think, a game changer. Also, cold storage, distribution, and food processing. That's actually Joyride, a smaller company that provides cold brew for Starbucks. And several of these were actually, frankly, pushed out of the LA and San Francisco based areas. So I think we have the opportunity. The state should look to us for the future in terms of the economic development opportunities. Hopefully that will happen. Jury's still out on what those partnerships would be. And I won't go over this, but I want to show you that working in business recruitment, especially on that side, it can be a long process, and the goal is always to have gatekeepers. And your city has amazing folks. Shout out to Craig, city manager, and Mark Staples, Council Orchel Cryers on our board. And we know that when we have a project, and we actually have one now we're working on, about 50 jobs, that they're in good hands. Not all cities can offer that. And we know that once we make the handoff, that the company is, is in good hands, and hopefully the project will land in your community. It's not always a guarantee, right? Many companies are looking at sites throughout the West Coast. But you can see how it starts basically from beginning to proposal, and then how do we land the deal, and basically 8 steps before we finally get the project. What really resonates, and marketing is so important, and internet, obviously, how does your community promote itself? We recently updated our website, kernedc.com. And less is more. We realize that the key with websites, our previous website, our legacy site had about 500 links. Really, you need about 20 links. And really, you need a face to the community. So making sure that that company can call either city manager, planning director, economic development person, and get the assistance right away. Because that's key. And so these are many of the endeavors that we're involved in. We have an 8-county EDC group, Central California EDC. We're the only group in the state that has outbound missions. So we just don't go to trade shows. We visit developers and corporate real estate execs around the country. Melinda Brown's our Director of Business Development, been doing it 15 years, doing a great job. Many leads we may get 4 years after we've made contact with a site selector. We also have Site Selector e-news that we send out to about 600 site selectors. We really need to promote what we have, and then also the communities that really understand the needs of these private sector businesses. This is for Kern County. It says Bakersfield, but just to show you a snapshot of where we are, we're actually 75 is a good ranking. It means we're in the top quartile. Best performing metros, mid-sized metros. We have about 2% growth. Of course, growth doesn't necessarily mean per capita income's increasing. In the case where we've lost a lot of oil jobs, folks making $85,000 are being replaced jobs were $40,000, and that is a serious concern. But you can see here, in terms of the county, much like the city, healthcare is fast-growing, leisure, hospitality. We're actually in the top, and you see the ranking in the middle. So in mining, and that's energy included, we're coming back, we're growing again. So pretty diverse portfolio. But again, what is the average wage of these jobs, right? That's the key. I just ran this for Taft today. This goes back basically to, I think, the third quarter of 19. So this is employment. You can see our employment growth in the city is about 3 to 4%, which is actually, 3.4 was actually greater than California and the U.S. And then here, local wage trends, they're up about 3%, which is less than the U.S. And California average. And obviously with the downturn in oil in 2014, we're still trying to make it back up to that. We have it's called Jobs EQ, which you as a partner of ours always have access to, which we can run the labor analytics information. And again, what this Bureau of Economic Analysis and Bureau of Labor Statistics have online is data compared to what we have. This is the most recent data. This is a bubble chart which charts 3 different information points. And so what this shows you, and this is energy, obviously Taft has 18 times the U.S. average for energy, right? We know that we're an oil town. And then there's still, this is 10-year forecasted growth. You can see about 1.5% or 0.6 a year. This shows you your kind of economic portfolio. So over here is good up here because it's higher wage jobs and also higher growth. Another way of looking at it, this is looking in the future. A lot of information here, but what types of clusters? What are the skill sets that are needed? Mechanical is important. That's why with Taft College here, the Hutchinson's Engineering Promise is so important, that pipeline, as well as we talked about the TIL program. I know that they had a Zero Project award, international award. So these kind of recognition is important, and also just making sure that the workforce is available. So you can see kind of the skill sets that Taft forecasted that are going to be necessary. And so I think, again, are we aligned with that? Is our workforce aligned needs? Because it is economic development is workforce development. This is a national issue right now. In fact, in Kern County, 10% of our high-level STEM jobs, science, technology, engineering, math, are unfilled. So how do we attract the workforce? How do we bring, keep the workforce here? And then you can look at some of the other importance. I know talking to the city, do we have shovel-ready sites, right? Versus just saying, here's a plot of, like some communities that say, here, it's a plot of land. Well, is there infrastructure, telecom, utilities all have to be set up. Otherwise, you're not going to make the short list. And some of the things are beyond our controls, obviously state tax structure, but a lot of the other regulatory, how does that community respond? A lot of times communities look and say, where's the 5-0 vote? They want to go to communities where these projects are supported. If it's 3-2 or 2-3, they may move to the next community because they spend a lot of time, they need clarity, reliability, much like we're telling the state with oil and gas. We need, now it's called CalGEM. There needs to be some degree of clarity and assurance that these projects will be approved. So you can see again, and they have college resources local, so that's good for Taft. I ran this today too. This is for the county, but red means these are the gaps. The available workers are not here right now. So you can see the jobs, architecture, engineering, computer, higher paying jobs, versus if you look at the bottom, ag, there's a surplus of people available and it pays $25,000 a year. So as much as we can work with you as a community, knowing what labor shed you have available, and that's what companies want to be assured that the labor will be there if they locate. So we are really focused on this talent and innovation angle because many communities are really, they're setting the pace. Kite, and actually we're going to have a meeting at Taft College on March the 30th. We're bringing the Kite group to Taft, and this is a partnership with REDC and J.P. Lake with Seed Corps Foundation. He also started the Kern Venture Group funding. And so what we need to do is how do we develop the next generation of companies? Because our large industries are frankly under attack, and we need to make sure we have other legs of the stool. And what Kite is we're an umbrella organization working with educators, communities, entrepreneurs, identifying local funding, the talent, spaces. Tehachapi is building a co-work facility. Kernville has one. Maybe Taft, we could work with your community. It's just one part of the solution. Bitwise, we went to Fresno a couple of years ago, brought several folks there, and lo and behold, the discussion started, and now Bitwise is locating in downtown Bakersfield. But they're going to meetings around the county. It's not minor. It may not just be a Bakersfield entity. It may be a county-wide entity, and that's the goal for us, to make those introductions. Because whether we like it or not, most of 90% of jobs are created from companies less than 1 year old. So the larger industries have the ups and downs, right, of the economy. So the red line is jobs created nationwide by companies less than a year old. So these young firms are creating these opportunities, and hopefully they're growing in your community. And you see whenever there's a downturn, I worked in Seattle, whenever Boeing laid off people the next year or two, there would be a huge startup activity because a lot of those folks maybe lost a job, they want to stay in the community, and they started their own business. We're seeing some of that with the oil industry, the downturn. Again, this is for Kern County. Sometimes you see Bakersfield, but it's the county, it's the metro area. So Inc. magazine recently rated the county as a top 50 best region for starting a business. And you can see down here, it seems like we'd be, I think we're 27, but it seems like we'd be higher because we're number 3 in job creation in the country, number 4 net business creation, number 11 rate of entrepreneurship. So it's happening here, and it's happening because we're lower cost. We have, we're developing the amenities, and folks want to stay on the West Coast. And our county, $50,000 you can buy a house versus $280,000 in the Bay Area. So I think we have some real opportunities. And there's another ranking, economy.com, Kern County. Again, this is Kern County, Bakersfield. We are rated out of 395 metros 5th for startup. And then you can see a lot of the activities in the West Coast, and that plays well for our communities, and that we have this opportunity to grow this entrepreneurial ecosystem. And it's all ages, by the way. The average entrepreneur is 45 or 50. So this is not just the millennials or the Z generation. So we are tracking this, and that's the key with KITE. The thing about Kern County is innovation is in our blood. We rank much higher. We're in the top 10% for innovation, various categories, than Fresno County. Our diversity, we're in the top 3 for most diverse economies in the country. But again, how do we get that innovation? How do we create the R&D that creates jobs? And so that's what we're all working to do. We have a very high, and East Kern, guess what? East Kern, since the earthquake, they're driving through our region looking for welders. They say, unfortunately, they get LA channels and they don't get the California. We get the Bakersfield news obviously here, but how do the communication channels? We have to align those because we want to keep those jobs in the county, and they have basically $3 to $4 billion they're going to receive from the federal authorities for rebuilding, and so it's interesting to hear stories where they're literally driving through the streets looking for welders. Another way that we work is through our symposium, and I know you all have been, Taft Colleges have been a partner. I believe there's schools from Taft have attended. That's on April the 29th. We're number 4 county in the country for STEM jobs, science, technology, engineering, and math. But our STEM jobs don't look like other areas. In fact, 58% of our STEM jobs require a 2-year degree or less. Whereas a lot of regions, you need to have a PhD or at least a college degree. Our STEM jobs pay $70,000 if you have a 2-year degree. So we have the students, we have the educators, and we have the businesses that meet on April 29th at the Kern County Fairgrounds. Hopefully you can attend that. Wrapping up, I presented a copy of our market overview, which we won an International EDC Award for Best Promotional Magazine. I've also included, I've handed out to the audience a economic impact fact sheet for oil and gas industry. Sometimes the elevator speech works better than a 50-page study, and we've seen this posted even through Sacramento and others, and we just need to keep pounding the drums and explaining the incredible opportunities, upward mobility that especially oil provides, and obviously the angle about imports, the alternatives for getting this oil with countries with terms of horrific human rights, environmental records, etc. So whatever we can do local, right? I grew up, local is good, right? Energy independence made sense. Having your own food growing nearby. Those seem to be, but what do I know? Common sense, that's what I go by. And our website, kernedc.com. Would love for you to see that. Our new tagline is where business is boundless. We do think Kern County is really the place if California is going to be successful. We've looked at studies showing a mass exodus of all income levels, all ages, out of the coastal communities. There is no middle class in many ways on the coast, and yet we have one of the largest middle classes here. So I would hope that more folks would come here for best practices, and that's what we always talk about. We have best practices in our backyard, including Taft. So thank you for your time.
Well, Richard, that was a very complete presentation. You didn't waste any time in getting it done, which business efficiency is another one of your strong suits, and you just proved that. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Mayor. I appreciate your support for the industry and economic development.
Absolutely. Well, gentlemen, Richard's right there. Any questions for Richard?
I have none.
I do.
Go ahead.
My concern, I talked to you about a month ago, the concern that I had was Craig and his staff are doing a really good job of bringing retail business in, and restaurants are doing a really great job. But what we're lacking is a light industry, manufacturing or distribution centers and this and that. And the discussion I had, we were going to come with a plan where we can tap LA market for the small business because of close proximity to it, or cost of labor is much cheaper than LA, the land, taxes, everything's, and we're very much business friendly here. But how can we tap into that market to attract them here to Taft? I'm not worried about Bakersfield or
Right.
East Side. I'm more worried about Taft.
Well,
What can we do
yeah,
here?
and that is the key is having the 4 or 5, 5 opportunity sites. I know we've seen an explosion in biofuel projects, which of course the county, the state is really incentivizing. But how do we expand beyond that? Because I was looking at the last 5 years, manufacturing's decreased 25% in Taft, but transportation, even retail has increased significantly. I was talking to the founder of the Lightning in a Bottle today about, hey, hopefully Taft will benefit when they bring 20,000 people out here, hopefully with the Hard Rock. But again, the challenge we have here is with the transportation corridors. However, we know that you guys are a pro-business community, and you don't have many NIMBYs, or as they say, the new term is banana. Build absolutely nothing anywhere near anybody. So you don't have a lot of bananas here. So, but again, what I would do too is working with you on the website, helping to market ICSC, the International. I know you all attend that shopping center, but we also attend with Melinda other trade shows, food, manufacturing, plastics. So we would love to partner with you as we do our outbound missions, because I think that's where the site selection consultants need to know about Taft. They need, so you, as we work to differentiate your community, I think that's key. And know that the labor, as we drill down in the labor analytics, show that you have the workers here, the workforce here. Because it's a challenge in many parts, Eastern Kern, like labor shed, people, where are the folks going to come from? So if we can make that value proposition showing that you have the available workforce here, that goes a long way.
So you see an opportunity through EDC to come with a plan or something?
Yeah, and working with your staff, what we do is kind of like a mystery shopper. We look at your website and say, is that portal conducive to a site selector? Remember, 90% of the research from site selectors is done before they even call us. They're going to either select your community or not select it by looking online. So what do they see when they look online? And as I said, it's usually just having a contact, talking to Mark or Craig or someone to talk, they understand economic development, but we have to get them at least to make, to look at your community. And then talk about your successes, talk about projects in the vicinity, not necessarily in your city limits, but you show that there's a real community support for economic development. So yeah, as much as we can help moving forward, I know we meet on a regular basis. This project Melinda's working with now, hopefully that will be successful, because we notice whenever we have a success, suddenly the phones start ringing off the hook, but you have to get that first one or that second one, and then that will really get that interest.
We all have, on the council here, have a concern with all the going on in Sacramento and stuff, and it's creating not a good environment. But I believe Taft has a lot to offer than most cities do, as far as our openness to having business here and our cheap land and
startup
along with
activity.
it.
That's why when we come out with Kite, I think let's see what opportunities. There's a new venture group that's looking to fund. If you have companies or entrepreneurs that are looking for funding, we need to make sure that those folks are in contact, as showing, again, 90% of your growth. And 90% of growth is from young firms, 90% from local firms. So we want to get the ones to recruit them, but also how do we get the local companies to be successful? That's also key.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Councilman Evelyn.
Yeah, with mine, pretty much, I think you answered the majority of my question, but that's what I was going to say is, whereas great presentation, very general, not local, I'm trying to realize, or if there's something internally as staff or as our internal economic development committee can do to help you help us. What can we do to move that along?
Well,
And
I
you
think-
elaborated on the internet site and that kind of thing.
Right. We've seen, I know we've toured some of your industrial parks, but it's really the dialogue with your city staff, which again is in terms what we have a really good conversation. Believe it or not, some communities we have a lead and we refer a client to them, and 2 weeks later they haven't called them back. Your community, you guys must not sleep because you're as responsive as any ones we've seen. So
We have great staff.
yeah. So that's really wherever the rubber meets the road, because we just try to get them interested in the county, and then we say, hey, these are some communities. Like Grocery Outlet, they came to us and said, what communities would you be interested in? And we said Taft would be a great one. So a lot of times they're just asking for our opinion, whether they take it or not.
My concerns, our youth is leaving us. We need something to retain them here, keep them here local with their families and stuff. But there's no jobs or no opportunities. You have to go outside of the area to find good paying jobs.
Well, I know the other thing was housing. If you have a good housing stock, I remember we brought Matt Towery out. He's a developer. Maybe we should bring him out again. He builds in Bakersfield. But I know a couple of years ago we brought him out. Maybe we bring him out again, because having that kind of market rate housing, if that's a need. Because you lose what percentage of people work here in the day and leave at night. You have the outgoing, right? Versus the bedroom community, the opposite. So how do we get those folks to stay, work here as well, live, work, and play? That's the way to be a sustainable community. So how do we get the housing stock to match the needs?
Yeah, well, and like I said, us helping you help us would be great if like you're talking about the internet website or whatever we can do to make ourselves even more palatable here.
Right. We'd love to work with you on that kind of the marketing, angle. And again, how do we get our new website? It's called Bounce Rate. Our bounce rate actually has improved significantly. Whereas people come to the site for 10 seconds and leave, we've actually doubled the amount of time that they've spent just in reworking that. Again, make it 5-10 pages. That's it. People only want to click 2 or 3 times, then they leave. So this is, the average attention span's 8 seconds, less than a goldfish. So that's why I have these. That we have these economic impact sheets.
Thank you, Mr. Job.
Okay, thank you. Thanks,
Councilman
Councilman.
Whiting, any questions?
I don't really have anything except to say thank you very, very much for your very comprehensive and very informative presentation to us tonight.
Thank you,
very much for
Council
that.
Member. I look forward to continuing to work with you all and
Thank you.
bringing success soon.
That's my 8 seconds.
That's your reason.
We have a couple, so
We as a community have challenges, and we're always going to have those challenges. Infrastructure coming right through the middle of town, that's not going to happen anytime soon. Those proposals have been made, 4 lanes from I-5. That's not going to happen anytime soon. Open land, easily developed open land. Over in Bakersfield, you got ag land. It's been tilled. You can buy a section and do what you want because it's been tilled. We are a very rich and endangered species on the west side. There's no doubt about that. We're an oil town. We will do everything we can and have for quite some time. We've done studies and we've reached out to people to help us with website design and different types of development issues as well. Kern EDC is also one of those partners in crime, if you will, to help us do those types of things. But the reality is we're never going to unload ships in the city of Taft. We don't have a railroad that goes through the middle of the city of Taft. We don't have a 4-lane highway that goes through the middle of the city of Taft. And we don't have thousands upon thousands of readily buildable acres, especially based on current leadership in Sacramento. So we have some challenges. I remember somebody telling me once, well, the West Side has no jobs. I said, well, you know what? I leave my house at 4:20 every morning, and all one needs to do is try to drive east any morning. And I don't care if you're on Bear Mountain Boulevard or if you're on Taft Highway or Rosedale or Stockdale or Laredo Highway or 46. There's a steady stream of vehicles coming this way, so there's actually quite a bit of employment to be had here.
and how do we keep that money?
How do we keep that money here? And building housing here is difficult, as we all know, because of Endangered Species Act. But we're working through that. We have strong leadership and partners in government we're very fortunate in that regard as well.
You would make a great mayor business case. I'm thinking now, talking about marketing, maybe we should link to your infamous Facebook Greenpeace blimp.
Okay.
I think that has about
my 15
50,000.
seconds of fame, huh? Yeah.
But you add fact. This is what it's about, facts, right? Not fake news. This is the facts of what these industries create, right? This opportunity, upward mobility. So maybe we need to, that's already gone viral. So how do we make the rest of the?
There's more. I've
okay.
been on multiple shows and talk radio, and there will be more.
Okay.
We just taped one right here in this room a week ago. And it'll be on Apple TV, Netflix, and YouTube. I don't know what all.
Oh, wow.
But trying to share the facts with people. The fact of the matter is, and I must say, well, I was going to do this during presentations, but and I will talk more about it, but what happened over in the Board of Supervisors room
Last week.
chambers was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
It was a bunch of people who finally took it serious. I will tell you, forever our industry wanted to stay in the shadows. We stayed out of the limelight. We shied away from the camera. We shied away from the microphone. And so, unfortunately, the narrative that got out there amongst the masses was devoid of facts and full of emotion. And that is the fight that we now find ourselves in. And I saw CEOs and I saw presidents stand up there and disseminate the facts and lay those facts out there. And that is going to be our mission. And that is, we are in the midst of a public relations battle.
Yep.
It's not a factual problem. I mean, one can stand up and argue the facts of the benefits of the industry all day, every day. They speak for themselves.
Right.
All you simply need to do is present them. But it is getting past, the narrative. It's getting past the emotion. It's getting through to the masses if they're truly sincere about caring about the planet. So that's we'll talk more about that. But.
No, I think that did galvanize. I was hard because 1,200 folks. I think it galvanized people in a way that it never has before. So that was inspiring.
It was indeed. I'd have to agree.
So we have to build on that momentum.
We will. Richard, thank you very much for coming
Thank you,
before and talking to the people of the City of Taft and talking to City Council. We really appreciate your support and appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mayor and
Thank you.
fellow
Thank you,
council
sir.
members.
Have a good evening. Well, thank you. All right. Next up, item number 2, citizen request public comments. This is the time and place for the general public to address the City Council on matters within its jurisdiction. State law prohibits the council from addressing any issue not previously included on the agenda. Council may receive comment and set the matter for a subsequent meeting. Please limit comments to 5 minutes. Mr. Larry Stieber wishes to address the council. If you'll state your name, please, sir, for the record.
Larry Stieber. I just have a question about this invoice that I received, or my son received, regarding an abatement on my property that didn't take place. And when Jill Gibson, I had talked to her on this, about this, and she said if they came out there and the property was cleaned up, there would be no charges. So I'm just wondering, I contacted Teresa Binkley, and she said to come to the city council meeting. I was going to address Damon McMahon about it, but I don't know, or James Waits, but I completely forgot about calling him. So Teresa said, come here and bring it up here. And
Okay, sir. Well, I will tell you, much like I just read the requirements for citizens request public comments, we cannot address that as a council at this evening's meeting in this forum. However, you may speak with Mark Staples or Chief McMinn, and if you need be, City Manager Greg Jones after this. If you have a question, we most certainly want to answer your question.
okay, James Waits, I don't know, does he work for the city? I have a name here that somebody said that he was going to return 13th or the 14th of January, but I forgot to call him.
Yes.
Does he work for the city?
Yes, he does indeed.
What's his title? Would it benefit to talk to him or just talk to the people you just mentioned?
Hang on just a moment.
Okay.
Actually, I believe that will be on the next agenda for the city council to ask consider placing a lien on that property. That would be the time and place for the individuals to come speak.
Okay.
It may be
For
on
or
the
against.
February 18th.
He'll get noticed.
Yeah, he'll get noticed. If
So
he
it'll be
hasn't
on
received that notice.
on the agenda for February the
4th
18th.
or the 18th.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Either the 4th or the 18th.
4th or the 18th.
And he'll get a notice ahead of time on that also.
So we will reach out to him. All right.
To whom?
To you, sir.
Oh, okay.
All right.
By mail or what?
Yes, a certified letter along with the snail mail letter goes out on those when
Okay.
we're doing
So
a
you'll
public
get
hearing.
2 letters to make sure that you receive them.
Okay, and it's what, just to address the issue?
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Sorry for taking your time.
Okay, that's the only person we have coming up to speak. Next up, item number 3, council statements, non-action. Councilman Evelyn, would you like to begin this evening?
Actually, I'm going to defer to you, Mr. Mayor, because I think you have a few things you want to tell me.
Well, that's very kind of you, sir. Councilman Whiting.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't have anything tonight.
All right. Mayor Pro Tem Cryer.
Thank you, Mayor. You know, we have issues here in our city as far as, retaining businesses and stuff. And I'd like to give a shout out to Les Clark for the Chamber of Commerce, he's the president, and also to the college. There's a gym out there that they can really educate, train some of the smaller businesses and things in town, train the youth here to how to retain them here in Taft. And wish we can utilize you more often because you really do an awful good job in the education system here in the college. But Les I spent with Les quite a few times on the phone and at his office and stuff to discuss what can we do in Taft to make it more retain our people and our businesses and come with ideas. It's not that easy. There's a lot more to it. Like an octopus, going all different directions, trying to come up with the information and how to act on it and to make it happen. But we need to do something and work on it together as a community to and through the chamber too to make this Taft more attractive city and retain them and bring business here. That's number one is business is our tax base. It helps our local restaurants and retailers and stuff and homes. We don't want any vacancies out there or it invites vandalism. But there's a lot of opportunities here, but it has to be a discussion and to talk about what can we do. And we need the help of the citizens. We need their ideas and their help and input too to make things to bring across to the chamber because the chamber is the heart of the community. It stimulates right there, and when they have their Wednesday sit and sip, come out there and talk to them. We have issues here. What can we do? I know we have some vandalism issues. We have homeless issues. We have a few other ones, but those are kind of minor. My concern is how can we attract businesses here in Taft and retain them, and retention is the ones that we do have here in Taft. And that's a big question right now. I'd like to thank there's been a few people here in Taft. We all went to the deal in at Kern County on the oil deal, and our mayor was there, and I was there. I was on the outside, but on the peripherals. But we had a lot of people there showed up, and we had a good representation from Taft. A lot of people that worked here in Taft were there, and it's good to see all that's going on. And but anyway, that's all I have to say, Mayor.
All right. Very good. Well, before I get started, I want to recognize Miss Renee Bitzer-Hill, former councilwoman, Mayor Pro Tem, for working with Yvette and changing out the plants and the decor to actually make this facility even more beautiful than it is, along with keeping in tune with the holidays. So I thank you, and we thank Renee Bitzer-Hill at Old School, which is Old's Cool. Actually, it's play on words. But Old School, downtown city of Taft. Go by and see her and thank her very much for her efforts. Regarding the meeting that took place over at the Board of Supervisors chambers, and I'm talking about filled the chambers, filled the waiting area, and spilled out doors. Overwhelming support and people who had something to say about this issue. This just transition that the governor speaks of. Very interesting. One has to try to determine just what that means. A just transition does not mean that you sign a document, a short-sighted, ill-conceived document, and then you just transition hundreds or thousands of hardworking, proud, professional people from employment and taking care of their family to the unemployment line. That is not a just transition. When you talk about the just transition of the state of California or this country or the world for that matter, regarding how we utilize the benefits of oil and gas day in and day out every day, it's not going to start tomorrow. It did not start last month. It won't take 10 years and it won't take a generation. All right, this has been going on for 40, 50 years, the just transition. There isn't a day that goes by that thousands of professionals, chemists and physicists and engineers don't try to find a better way to further the benefits to all mankind that come with a naturally occurring organic material, which is oil and gas. The thing that separates us from the third world, and that is we have accessibility to clean, inexpensive energy. I cannot think of a more telling example of just exactly how that all worked than the last, was it public safety power shutoff up in the 9 counties region, an area that shies away from the oil and gas industry. You know, they say we can do without it. Let's get rid of it. We can do with whatever inconveniences might come our way. And during the last public safety power shutoff, which was brought about because they want to alleviate the possibility of big fires, and they experienced those big fires up there. Well, just a couple of days into this thing, people thought that, man, I'm going to be without electricity. Well, I've got my solar roof, and that'll take care of me. And then they found out that their solar roof actually went into the infrastructure, into the grid, so they had no power. And then what they did was they immediately abandoned their position. They ran to Lowe's and they ran to Home Depot and they bought their generators and they filled them full of gas and diesel and propane, and they sought relief and comfort in the arms of hydrocarbons, the proven capability of hydrocarbons to see to it that their quality of life would not be interrupted. And that's what they did. It would appear that their go green, get rid of oil and gas at all cost morality was as intermittent as the electricity produced by wind and solar. And that is a shame, but that is the reality. The people in the state of California do not want to do without the benefits of oil and gas, and everything about our lives is surrounded by it. If everybody in this room right now removed every article of clothing that had some synthetics in it, we would all be sitting here naked to the world, talking to one another. And that is the truth. Anybody in the audience wearing nothing but organically grown and woven wool, raise your hand. That's what I thought. The same was true at the chambers when we were there for the Board of Supervisors meeting. I did not get up and speak. There were a great many people that did, and I loved seeing the champions of the industry as well as the CEOs and the presidents, and they had the support of their boards to get up and get out in front of the cameras and get in front of the microphones and tell our story, help people understand, because I think there are a lot more people sincere about their concern for the health of the globe than are the hypocrites that want to ignore the facts. Our governor said himself, my bias is consistent. I think that's a pathetic statement for a leader to make, and I have made that statement in the past. I think a leader ought to be able to say, I'm consistently unbiased. I will listen to anybody and everybody who has anything to inform me as we work towards the goal, the common goal. That, unfortunately, is not our governor right now. I have worked very, very hard, as well as many other people, to help inform him of the facts. And I don't think he's that guy. I don't think he's the guy that will stand in front of his adoring crowd and say, you know what, the narrative is wrong. It's incorrect. I've been exposed to new facts that actually show that by doing what we thought was right, we're creating more pollution than we're preventing. California, the people of California are going to have to make a decision. They're going to have to either support local oil and gas production as our solution, or they're going to have to continue to finance global pollution, because that is what is going on. As we send billions and billions of dollars elsewhere, the slides that Zach Scrivener put up there that showed the oil spills in Colombia and Ecuador and the complete indifference to the environment globally or locally for Iraq and Iran and Kuwait is undeniable. So I won't go on forever because it was a great discussion. The representatives of our industry did a fantastic job. They did. Now, there were those who chose to argue with that. I myself ended up taking Anthony Williams to the hospital. So I did not get 1 minute in front of the Board of Supervisors. I got 15 minutes in my truck with Anthony on the way to the hospital, which was very beneficial. And I'll talk to him some more. So we are not going to be able to replace all the benefits of oil and gas and petrochemicals tomorrow or 10 years from now, or at any time during any of our lives. And I showed Anthony a simple test because so many people there thought, well, I'm going to be negatively affected if we get rid of oil and gas. It was almost like, well, we'll separate you into groups. And people thought, well, is it going to be me? And I told Anthony this, and I'll share it with the rest of you. There's a simple test. I devised this test, as a matter of fact, and I tell you it is foolproof. And I will challenge the governor to send it to Lawrence Livermore, and I'll discuss that with him. But if you are curious about whether or not you would some way, somehow be negatively affected by the elimination of domestic production, California production, this test will serve to prove that to you. So we're all going to do this together. It takes just a moment. So I want you to hold up these two fingers. Hold them up. Everybody do it, okay? Now I want you to gently place it underneath your chin alongside your Adam's apple. Now if you feel a rhythmic thumping in your fingers, then you will feel the pain. Simple as that. You rely day in and day out, every day, on oil and gas and petrochemical industries for your quality of life. Now, when you go home tonight and you're getting ready for bed and you brush your teeth and you're looking in that mirror, I want you to ask that person in the mirror one more question. And that question is, have I enjoyed the benefit of oil and gas and petrochemicals every single day of my life thus far? All right, and we're going to do that test again. Check that one more time. Because if you feel it, the answer to that question is also yes, you have. It works for children. It works for the elderly. It works for people who don't speak our language. It works for everybody. So share it with your friends. All right, that's all I have tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Fair.
Okay, moving on. Planning Commission reports. Do we have a Planning Commissioner? Yes, we do. Hop on up here, please.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. It's a change of pace. I got picked again.
Welcome back, Jerry.
We had essentially two items on the agenda, but they revolved around one item, which was the Capital Rivers proposal to build the new grocery outlet up next to where they built the Dollar General. I'm sure everybody's aware we had an attorney there for the second time challenging the soil report, basically. In fact, I don't think he challenged anything but soils, to be honest with you. The commission took the advisement from Mr. Finney and then voted on a 4-0 to approve the project as it is currently proposed. The second item was basically the alcohol permit for that project, and it was approved as well. Certainly there was some concern about what's really going on behind the decision of Mr. Finney to come down and challenge the environmental on this particular project. I think we all have some suspicions about where it comes from, but it wasn't verified that night, to be honest with you. I'm assuming that you'll be dealing with that same issue. As I understand, an appeal has been put forward to the council. So if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them about it, but other than that.
Councilman, go ahead.
I'm actually going to pass this down from Councilman Bryant, who I had a conversation with earlier. I think he wants to know, since your background being what it is, commercial real estate, would you, or would anybody, would you like to opine personally on, I think he wants your opinion on exactly that, on what they were, who they were, what was going on there.
Most people, Bryant and Councilmember Bryant included, know that I worked for a development community down in San Diego, residential, commercial developers, some industrial. And this looked like a tactic that we used to call greenmail. The project proponent raised that as well, which is you make up a name for a group to challenge an item. You then find people to be part of the group at some later date, but it's initially done usually for the benefit of a third party. And it just seemed to me to be that kind of a deal. I did say, and I think it's true, that in Taft, it's really rare for somebody not to just pick up the phone and call the mayor, the planning, Craig, our city manager, or Mark, our planning director, or even one of the planning commissioners, if they have a real complaint. I mean, it's not an unusual expectation, and people show up to make those complaints. When you have a group that won't actually identify themselves, makes me suspicious, at least, because it looks exactly like, and I'll be honest, we did this on our side of the business too. We wanted somebody to support a development project. You invented a group and recruited people to become a part of it to support your development project. So to me, at least, I think it's less about the actual question of whether or not there's actually any bad dirt up there. That, I think, was addressed, to be honest with you, back when the Dollar General was put in. We all saw the piles of dirt there for a few months, properly disposed of and replaced with good, clean fill. And to my mind, I don't think it's any different on the site, 10 feet over. So,
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Any other questions, gentlemen? No? All right. Thank you very much for your report. Appreciate it. Next up, item number 5, department reports. Do we have any department reports this evening? Seeing none. City manager statement. City Manager Jones.
Thank you, Mayor. Just again want to thank Richard Chapman for coming out today and tell Melinda hello for me. I know I communicate more with her than you probably, but I appreciate you coming out, and that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
All right. I'm not going to offer the city attorney the opportunity to make any statements this evening. Future agenda requests this evening. Gentlemen.
Mr. Mayor.
I have one.
Yes.
And I think this is the time and the place that we need to do it, is we need to do a resolution. I think you're a great person to support the oil industry, as far as to our supervisors, to CalGen, and also to our governor, about our support for oil industry and stuff. And the city is our livelihood. I think we should be on the forefront and do it. I think
I would concur with that.
Thank you.
All right. So we have concurrence?
Quick question. Was that to nominate Mr. Mayor as an ambassador to do
No,
that?
no.
He's always an ambassador. But do a resolution, and all of us, in total agreement, and do it, and
Absolutely.
and support it, because that's our livelihood.
I would concur. All right. Any others? No? All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Just as a side note, I thought it was very interesting that the fellow from CalGem was telling Vince Fong that he was going to request funding for an additional 127 full-time equivalent employees. And I thought, that must be a state agency, because in the private sector, and I've had a business in the private sector for 30 years in the state, and I cannot think of a single business plan whereby you could no longer provide the service that you're meant to provide, but then ask for 127 additional full-time employees so you could be more efficient at not doing your job. I think that's really a very interesting business plan. And I look forward to somebody writing a paper on that someday.
I think you know the answer to that.
Okay. Next up, consent calendar items 9 through 12. All items listed on the consent calendar shall be considered routine and will be enacted by one roll call vote. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a member of the City Council requests specific items to be removed from the consent calendar for separate action. Any item removed from the consent calendar will be considered after regular business items. Are there any items on the consent calendar that any member of the public would like to comment on? Seeing none. All right. Those items are number 9, the minutes for the January 7th, 2020 regularly scheduled meeting. Item number 10, the payment of bills, about $424,000 worth. Item number 11, planning director to attend the American Planning Association's National Planning Conference in Houston, Texas, April 25th through 28th. Maybe you can go steal some of those companies back, huh? Recommendation is a motion to approve travel expenses for the planning director to attend the American Planning Association National Planning Conference in Houston, Texas, from April 25th to 28th, 2020, with approved expenses up to $1,385. And then finally, item 12, accept the bid award agreements in the amount of $10,995 to Housley Demolition Company Incorporated for the demolition at 308 Church Street, which is a motion to accept the bid in the amount of the $10,995 and approve entering into an agreement for same. Does any council member wish to remove any of these items from the consent calendar? I am going to have to, I'm having a hard time, excuse me. I didn't make the last meeting. Okay, so
I have you abstain.
thank you very much. So at this time, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Motion. Second.
I had 2 motions and a second. All right, very good. Madam Clerk, may we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Mayor Pro Tem Cryer,
Yes.
Councilmember Evelyn,
Yes.
Councilmember Whitey,
Yes.
and Mayor Noor.
Yes, that approved on a 4-0 vote. Thank you very much. At this time, City Council is going to go into closed session for 2 items. Conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, Government Code Section 54956.9B, 2 potential cases. And item B, conference with labor negotiator Craig Jones, City Manager, Government Code Section 54957.6, all units. I want to thank you all for coming this evening and being a part of our City Council. Good night. Hoorah.